taxes from the Predatory Lending Network, asking folks about President Obama's trip to Cuba. What do you think about this, sir?
Well, I thought we looked very weak with him going down there. I mean, he went to a baseball game right during the Brussels attacks. But hey, you know, I'm glad we went down there, but it wasn't a good showing for America, of the United States of America.
Now, there were allegations about political prisoners held by Cuba. What do you make of that?
I can't comment on that because I don't know much about it. Okay. So I don't want to lie to you.
Now, Starwood Hotel says it will be managing 3 hotels owned by the Cuban government. What do you think of this?
Well, I guess it's okay. I don't know. I don't know much about that either.
Okay. Now, what do you think about the U.S.-Cuban trade embargo?
Well, I can't answer because I don't know anything about that as well.
So in closing, is there any last-minute things you'd like to say?
I love America and Trump 16.
So in closing, this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network saying, I'm taxing you! This is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network asking folks about President Obama's trip to Cuba. What do you think about that, sir?
I don't really know. The only thing I really know about Cuba is that the food's pretty good.
Now, there was allegations of political prisoners being held by the Cuban government. What do you make of that?
What did you just say?
Okay. Now, Starwood Hotels will be managing 3 hotels owned by the Cuban government. What do you make of that?
Sorry, what? I was looking... Boobs. Sorry. What?
Now, what do you think about the U.S. and Cuban trade embargo?
Is this, like, what does this mean? What are you...
So in closing...
me money? Is this a paid thing?
In closing, is there any last-minute things you'd like to say?
No.
Okay. So in closing, this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network saying, I'm taxing you! Now, this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network asking folks about President Obama's trip to Cuba this week. What do you make of this, sir?
Well, I mean, everyone needs to go on vacation and every now and then. Why not go somewhere you're not wanted?
Now, there was allegations against the Cuban government of having political prisoners there. What do you make of that?
Well, any prisoners are good prisoners, in my opinion. I like to keep many, many superheroes in my basement.
Now, Starwood Hotels will be managing 3 hotels owned by the Cuban government. What do you make of that?
I'm not really sure on that one. I don't really do much with hotels. I blow them up on occasion, but I don't really stay at them, you know what I mean?
Now, what do you think of the U.S. and Cuban trade embargo?
I don't think anything of it.
Okay, so in closing, is there any last-minute things you'd like to say?
Well, yes, actually, I would love to say a few things. First off, I'd like to say hi to Castro, if he's watching. A big fan, big fan. I think that was really all.
Okay, so in closing, this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network saying, I'm taxing you! This is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network asking folks, what do you think of President Obama's trip to Cuba this week?
Well, this is not one of the Earth periods of history that I have studied extensively. However, it was a very logical step in relations between the United States and Cuba, and he was one of the first presidents to visit. So this was definitely a historic moment in Earth history.
Okay. Now, there was allegations of political prisoners being held by the Cuban government. What do you make of that?
Well, I am unsure of where those prisoners came from or what kind of prisoners that they were holding. Like I said, this was not one of the periods of Earth history that I studied more extensively. You know, being that time travel these days is discouraged, I had not considered traveling back to this era. This is an unexpected trip on the Aetherprise.
Now, Starwood Hotels will be managing 3 hotels owned by the Cuban government. What do you make of that?
I think it is a logical step. If relations between the United States and Cuba have opened up, then indeed the tourist trade would then be a natural outcome of such conclusions.
Okay. So what do you think of the U.S.-Cuban trade embargo?
According to a paper I did in Starfleet Academy, the trade embargoes were never a great success, and eventually, after Obama's visit, they simply faded out of history.
So in closing, is there any last minute things you'd like to say?
Well, live long and prosper.
Closing, this is Taxes from the Predatory Lending Network saying, I'll be taxing you.